I recently was playing through The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild for the first time. I'd played it before in short spurts, but this was the first time I'd sat down and seriously attempted to complete the game. I know I'm a little behind the 8 ball here. Obviously what I experienced was breathtaking and incredible, but it got me wondering, why hadn't I been invested like this the first time? And the answer I kept coming back to... Now you have to understand, me personally, I'm a sucker for formula. I'm like one of Pavlov's dogs. It's why I enjoy MMOs and will always buy the next Pokemon installment even though they keep getting worse and worse. So when I played Breath of the Wild for the first time, I was expecting something along the lines of item, dungeon, Ganon. Blam. Instead, my reaction was something along the lines of, these dungeons have no charm or character to them, items don't feel special or important since they break so easily, this cooking mechanic to heal is dumb and monotonous, it takes way too long to get to places, why does Link have an iPad? I was being what is known as a poo-poo head. Ultimately, my frustration was stemming from my own predetermined expectations. I simply wasn't looking in the right places where the value in this game truly lies. The fact of the matter is that slow, calming music as you walk over this very large meadow is the game. If I may quote my white suburban mother's favorite piece of Bed Bath & Beyond wall art, the journey is the destination. And once I realized that, it shattered the entire idea of formula and IP and the relationship between them in my brain. All this said, as an artist and a gamer, even back in 2017, I realized the sheer accomplishment and beauty that Breath of the Wild was. When Nintendo announced that Breath of the Wild was to be open world, everyone got super nervous. But everyone forgot that Miyamoto has Jesus powers and everything he touches is good almost. Once we saw this, all of our worries melted away. I must admit that even after learning to love Breath of the Wild, I struggled with its identity as a Zelda game. It's definitely Zelda, not just in story, but there's something about tried and true format that had me asking why it needed to be open world. One of the biggest reasons the decision was made was to, no pun intended, breathe new life into stale motifs. And I get that. Franchises need to innovate to stay relevant, but that is why I think one of the most understated and incredible Zelda games of late is the 3DS title A Link Between Worlds. It innovated by making all items important, keeping a soft open world feel by allowing dungeons to be completed in any order and in a variety of ways with a variety of items, leaving the choice up to the player. It also introduced new puzzles never before seen in the franchise with the wall art mechanic. To me, A Link Between Worlds was and still is an S-tier modern Zelda game, and what I thought of when I heard the words innovation in regards to keeping the franchise fresh. This felt like reinventing the wheel. However, only tied down by technological limitations, even the original NES Zelda was truly open world. There is an element of freedom in most Zelda games. And when I calm down, take a step back, and look at the Zelda franchise, the idea of a truly open world has always been present and a part of Miyamoto's vision. So why was I having such a problem with this? As is common, I was being an idiot. And once I accepted it and let myself have fun, I became addicted to the game like I haven't been to a video game in a long time. It was one of those situations where I would have to be up for work at 6 and say, oh, it's only 2 a.m., I can play for another hour. Once my time with Breath of the Wild came to a close and I had time to reflect on this inner struggle I was having, I ultimately came to the conclusion that my aversion, while still a problem for me, was less so with change and was rather a sour taste for the open world genre as a whole. Open world is one of those situations where there are few or maybe even no decent open world games. When it's good, like with Breath of the Wild, it's incredible, and when it's bad, it's really bad. Going back to the dawn of the previous decade, everyone was in the honeymoon phase with open world. Bethesda was in its prime, having recently released The Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion and Fallout 3. With Skyrim on the way. Minecraft arrived on the scene, GTA 5 happened, everyone was having some of their most memorable and enjoyable gaming experiences. The worlds were bigger than anyone not accustomed to MMOs like WoW and RuneScape had ever played before, and before long, words like open world and sandbox were on every developer's lips. And then the unstoppable tide of really bad games came crashing down. Every franchise, and I mean every franchise, felt the need to be open world. But what people failed to realize is that good open world games are hard as hell to make. They are huge and have list upon endless list of content that need to be developed for it to work properly. With the fast turnaround time some of these AAA franchises were under, we ended up with so many games that had no business being open world. For every Witcher 3, we end up with hundreds of empty games. Games that just repeat the same boring tracking missions over and over again. Games that end up being nothing like what was teased. Games that pretend to be open world but are the literal exact opposite, and most of them, even the good ones, were almost always broken beyond belief at launch. By the arrival of the Nintendo Switch, my soul was longing for the days when game worlds had obvious low-polygon walls to mark your boundaries, and that was okay. That still meant the game could be good. Game studios had literally and figuratively become afraid of the very things that could make their games better. After a while, even Bethesda, the undisputed king in the genre, started putting out games like Fallout 76, and so I ended up despising the entire idea. And they're gonna touch my baby, my favorite gaming franchise, with this poison. It's fair to say I had become jaded and didn't give the game a fair chance. Thank God I came to my senses. I can truly say Breath of the Wild was one of the most pleasurable and eye-opening gaming experiences I've had in years. And so the point I am trying to make here can basically be summed up as 1. Make open world games great again by making less of them. And 2. Never be afraid to take risks and innovate, even if it means reinventing the wheel, and especially if idiots like myself start complaining.
You must save her, my daughter.